Hey, I'm Ben Silverio.
I'm John Shanahan.
And I'm Ansel Birch.
And it's
Time to party! We are not doctors. We don't give medical advice. Please drink responsibly. Today's episode was recorded on March 2nd, 2025. Wah, wah, wah. Jesus Christ.
Party people, if you're just joining us, this month we have been talking about Press Play, a delightful romantic drama? Dramedy?
Dramedy, yeah.
Dramedy?
Yeah.
Name a funny part, man.
I mean...
I'm going romantic drama, but that's me.
Okay, romantic drama works out. Well, if you don't know, then our good friends at IMDb will let you know. A young woman has a chance to save the love of her life when she discovers that the mixtape they made together can transport her back in time. If this sounds delightful for you, you can thank the wonderful Don Shanahan for bringing this to us.
You're welcome, fellas.
We're so glad to have Don back on the show for another go around here at Time to Party.
No, thanks for having me. Thanks for diving into this little indie for you. Again, we keep touting it as a great double bill with the greatest hits that you guys have covered, and it really would be for a musical Saturday or Friday night on the couch.
I also need to thank you for sending me the soundtrack of the greatest hits.
I'd send you this one
vinyl
if they had it anywhere. Yeah.
The Greatest Hits has such a great soundtrack, and I was listening to it while I was doing my prep for this. So I do love that album, and I do want you to know that it is regularly being played in my house.
There you go. Sweet. I love it.
But all right, here we are in Time to Party with our third episode of the month, which means edutainment. I'm sure you can imagine the hand motion that goes with that phrase. We here at Time to Party like to, as much as we love to entertain, we love to educate. We're always in the pursuit of knowledge for some reason. Well, for Ansel, it's more, functional because he's a time traveler. And
I'm just doing research. Yeah,
exactly. When we're helping Ansel, which we love to do. And so now we have a professional teacher here with us again to actually give us something worthwhile. All right. So, Don, would you like to go first?
I can. If you're going to make me go first, I'll do the obvious one. The inception or the popularity or the creation of mixtapes, where the heck did it come from? So the idea of mixtapes, it seems like when I kind of do the research, that it was definitely kind of part of the hip hop culture in the 1970s is kind of where it really got started, where, DJs would kind of put their tracks down on cassettes and kind of, get those things like self-curated, self-created, pass them around. And, just to kind of get a wider audience for their sound, because they weren't, exactly cutting records and getting recorded if they were a small act or a diverse act or an overly ethnic act, I guess I should say. But yeah, cassettes were easy like that because you could record so readily and easily, and they're small enough that you can kind of pass them out and do their thing. I think the introduction of the Sony Walkman in 1979 definitely kind of brought the improvements to making this a little bit more mobile than having the big boom boxes and all that. And from what I can tell, it's just you asked this of Ansel and I last episode, but just like there's that youth culture of like finding your own zone, finding your own music, or just kind of like, what songs do you want? You're not happy with the radio station, or there's too many commercials where you're going to make a list of just your own commercial free for just the songs that you want, because I feel like with things that you could fast forward a little quicker, especially CDs, but like, when cassettes kind of moved a little differently, were more portable than records, and then they, even though they don't move as fast as CDs or move as fast as records in terms of skipping songs, but like we always bought those tapes that we were like, I only like these 2 songs and I don't like the other 8. But like, so being able to kind of chop and screw and kind of get your own kind of set going was a fun part to do. And like, it wasn't inaccessible technology. You just needed blank tapes and 2 devices, or at least one device that had the 2 decks, and you can kind of go with it a little bit. So it was fun myself to make mixtapes as a kid, or just to make your own things. And once you kind of realize, as you said last episode also, Ben, the power of music in romance, or at least in courtship purposes, you would make mixtapes for friends or for, potential suitors and that sort of thing. And that just kind of it was just it was a cool DIY personalized thing that would cost a poor dumb high school kid with no job and no money would cost you nothing but a pair of blank tapes and some time. And for that, it was just it was a pleasure to do. And I think the heyday easily for this, evolution of the mixtapes would be the 80s and 90s when cassettes were king. And then by the time, and you said it as well, once the 90s got here and CD burners and MP3 players kind of took over, where CDs obviously were a little easier and a little faster to kind of make the mixtape that you wanted to make, a little cleaner than a CD as well. And then once MP3 players are here and you just fill the whole thing with hundreds and thousands of songs versus what you could, the 70 precious minutes you can hold on a CD, it kind of, things blew up and became more voluminous, so to speak. When it's an MP3 player or it's an unlimited playlist that you can build today, you can obviously overfill things with songs versus the limits you had with a mixtape of like, you only got 2 sides, you only got 45 minutes, 70 minutes, like to really kind of put out your best and assemble your best. And I appreciated the kind of the craftsmanship of doing it yourself, but at the same time, just that history. Like, you say it now, and from an edutainment standpoint, and kids these days would look at you like, you made what? What does it do? What are you talking about? Like a tape, not just a tape, but the fact that you would sit down and make a mixtape, they would look at you cross-eyed today. So, yeah, it's
at a
fun
time
to
scale of 1 to 1 as well. Like you had to listen to the whole song.
Yeah. So to live in that era and to experience that and be able to call back to that and enjoy it, that's enough to, hey, young kids, let me tell you about back in the day. And I will be that guy for this episode.
Gather around, children.
Gather around, children.
Well, you actually inspired me to bring up something else, I guess, in kind of a mini edutainment for me then. Because you you mentioned courtship, and the old school way of courtship in the Philippines and in the Filipino culture was like there was a musical aspect to courtship for Filipinos, and there was this one tradition called harana, where you would gather your friends to play their instruments and you would serenade the person whose affections you're trying to win.
Damn.
And I always thought of that as like a old school mixtape, but in person.
Yeah.
I always liked that aspect of Filipino courtship.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that I made some mixed CDs in my day. I even went as far one time for this girl that I really liked in college. I included a hidden track on the mix CD.
Oh, okay.
And it was hidden because I was singing it.
Oh, all right.
And party people, I have to let you know, I do love karaoke, but I'm not a singer. So, I did my best. But the song that I sang was an English translation of a Filipino song called Harana. And it talks about the whole courtship tradition of playing music to impress the person you're trying to impress. And Don's edutainment reminded me of this little cultural aspect. So I thought I'd give an even shallow dive than we normally do.
That's very sweet.
Yeah, good call.
I've always liked that.
I would not have the balls to sing any of the songs in any mixtape I've ever made. Not a chance. Let the experts do it. They're doing better than me.
I'm very lucky. Tab and I were in a singing group when we were first together. So like we did a fair amount of singing together.
There's just something about the act of singing together, whether you're good or not.
Oh,
True. It definitely can bring a couple together, I think.
Something harmony, something.
Yeah, exactly. But when you're trying to serenade someone who doesn't want to be serenaded, or who isn't taking your serenades in the same way that you're putting them out, it's a very different thing.
Your mileage may vary. Yeah.
Yes. I think of just the act of courage that's like when you brought up courtship, like all those layers of like, we didn't have cell phones and texting. We had to like walk up to somebody at a class, a bar, a hallway, a locker, or wherever you were, and like you had to face to face put yourself out there and maybe get a phone number. I keep thinking of the movie Swingers all the time, where like I know it was its own little game and its own little thing, but at the same time, it took a tremendous amount of courage to kind of do that back in the day. Whereas like, not that a mixtape was a cop out, but like if it still was like these are my, you know, I made all this work for you and here's the things I love, please love them with me. And like, that was about as distant as we could do versus, but you still had to kind of like face to face get that mixtape to them. You couldn't just like stash in the backpack or locker or text it to them, you know.
As a first move, it was definitely aggressive. Yeah.
Yeah. Whew.
Yeah.
I know we're not dating, but I spent 90 minutes on this.
Yeah, I'm not obsessing you at all, you know, especially that, you know, the booty slinging song that's third on the track here, you know, like, you know, that R. Kelly feeling on your booty can only hit so hard, guys, you know.
My God.
Yeah. That's the other thing. It's like the music of then versus the music of now. Like I'm not saying we got away with some things. We're not R. Kelly getting away with some things, but like, oh yeah, the innuendo of songs then is, well, I guess it's plenty heavy now, but like it was more taboo to even have them around back then than now.
I always point out the Venga Boys, Boom Boom Boom, as like I can't believe we got away with this song.
Sure.
You know, like when you look at the lyrics to that song, it's just like this was on like a Radio Disney CD.
Easily. Yeah.
and that's the victory. I think we forget about songs that are deeper in the track list of albums, because it would take a lot to get the thong song onto the radio. That was a Herculean feat.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Whereas there are a million thong songs fourth or fifth down the track list that just, you know, you probably didn't even hear.
True.
Oh my God. Like, just thinking back on some of the songs, like Barbie Girl, if you actually listen to the lyrics of Barbie Girl, like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I listened to a podcast. We'll promo somebody else's podcast. They didn't ask me to. The show is called Bill Buds, and what they do is they listen to an entire album, and it has to be an album that charted on the Billboard Top 100. But other than that, there are no rules. So as long as it hit the top 100 at some point, they can cover it on the show. And they have gotten some truly wild shit on there. And it has gotten me back into listening to the whole of albums, which means I'm hearing more of those deep album cuts that I would never have caught. Like, I would never have listened to 10,000 Gex if it wasn't for this podcast. And there's some gems deep in the album. But anyway, so promoted for somebody else's podcast. They don't know me, but I kind of know them tertiarily through a friend. So, hey, Bill Buds, little bump from us.
Hey, Don, you're frequently on a podcast too, aren't you?
I mean,
while we're doing podcast promos,
I'm on this one, you know, and then I have bought plenty of buddies here and there. I need to do a better job of getting those people back on my show, but we record at weird times. We're school teachers. If we don't make hay in the summer, we'll never see you all again. So, yeah, I got to get there at some point, getting you folks over to us. So,
yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, come summer, we should just tape like 6 or 7 of these, and we can just like throw them out as
right. Gosh.
All right, Ansel, do you want to go next, or do you want me to go
next? I can
go
next, sure.
Okay.
Mine is sort of a mini edutainment this time, because I picked a topic that is not as deep as I thought it would be. But I think it is still a fascinating look into surf culture.
Ooh.
And I kind of alluded to it early on. I was distracted by the application of surf wax to the board before
I was going to do surf wax.
Oh no, really?
That's a point break.
Oh, okay.
That's a point break
to do
there,
surf wax.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
I've got to back up. But yeah, I thought, what a great little detail to put on the thing, and then right before he dies as well, like, ooh, okay, you didn't need to go that hard. But yeah, so surf wax is today largely paraffin wax, and it is paraffin wax that has been hardened or softened depending on the temperature of the water that you're going to surf in.
Huh.
So yeah, I also did not know that. So depending on where you are going surfing, you're going to go for a different kind of wax, and that is super interesting. But I wanted to look at the history of surf wax because it is so tied to the history of surfing in general. And it turns out that according to the California Surf Museum, which is a real thing, it goes back to the immediately pre-war period. According to them, in 1935, a teenager in California applied floor wax to his surfboard, and because he had observed that when his mom waxed the floor, his feet stuck to the waxed floor better. So he was like, I wonder if that would work for my surfboard. And then his mom got mad at him for stealing the floor wax and insisted that he use the paraffin that they use for canning. And history was made. And so if you believe the California Surf Museum, that is where waxing your surfboard comes from. There is a Brazilian story that sounds awfully familiar that also includes two brothers who wanted to go surfing and needed something to maintain their grip. That one does not go as far back, but it's tough to say with any surety who maybe was the first. But the California Surf Museum, they think they've got it knocked down, and it was Alfred Gallant Jr. who first waxed a surfboard back in the 30s.
Yeah.
And then the first commercially available surfboard wax came out in the 60s. It took until 1964 for the Surf Research Company to produce a surf wax, or 1963, sorry. And they went out of business or split into two smaller companies in the early 70s, leaving the door open for a company called Sex Wax, which is still the standard today. Although there are many, many, many waxes, Sex Wax has been a sort of staple, and that one started in 1972.
You gonna stock up on Sex Wax now,
Yeah.
Ansel?
I mean,
always
bump the stock a little bit, right? Yeah.
You're gonna need all that for all the waves in Chicago.
Oh yeah,
Right.
Hey, we're getting less and less inland every year.
We just had, what did they tell me the other day? Our least precipitation during meteorological winter in 88 years. We only had
crap.
O'Hare had under 12 inches of precipitation between December and February.
Wow.
Yeah. Thinnest,
I
driest
love how
winter.
y'all waited until after I left.
I know.
To get all that.
Yeah. thinnest, driest winter in 88 years. Something like that.
That's why. I mean, it has been shockingly mild this year.
Yeah.
Thanks for rubbing it in, guys.
Yeah, hey, you enjoy your California Surf Museum. Take that drive down Oceanside.
Yeah, go visit.
I am in Oceanside a lot.
Yeah, that's a haul, though, man. Whew. Yeah.
My edutainment was inspired by a couple things. If you listened to our Back to the Future Part 2 episode, I did more of a list of edutainment. And I kind of did the same thing here because it's kind of related to what Don was talking about. But I was really inspired by the line in the movie where Chloe quotes Harrison by saying, B-sides never get enough love.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to look into some famous B-sides to see just how much love they were getting. But here's the thing. Some B-sides should have been A-sides. But let's start here. B-side and A-side. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, the A-side and the B-side refer to the two sides of a record or a cassette that will usually mention whether it's A or B, and usually on the A side is where they put the big hit song that they want to get out there. It's like your first and best shot. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the B side or the flip side is like the secondary recording that usually doesn't get as much attention. It's just like, oh, maybe the artist felt some kind of way about the song and really felt like it should get a little bit more spotlight than just being on the album. And a lot of times a B-side can serve as like a bonus, like a track that wouldn't be regularly featured on the album or something like that, or like a live version of the A-side, or there's a number of ways to handle it. But when you're looking historically at famous B-sides, I mostly focus on pop music, like Billboard charts and things like that. So I'm sure there are some other ones in other genres that will be mind-blowing to you. But I have this list of songs, almost like a mixtape,
Now we're talking.
that I'd like to share with you.
Submitted for your approval.
Yes. Starting with We Will Rock You by Queen.
That's a B-side.
That was a B-side?
It was the B-side of We Are the Champions.
Well, I mean, that's
a
when
banger.
done right, that's a nice 1-2 punch, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Next is You Can't Always Get What You Want by the Rolling Stones, which was the B-side for Honky Tonk Woman.
See, that's one I'd flip.
Yeah. You probably should switch those. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Because like I when I was going through these songs, I was just like, do I remember this A-side? And for a minute, I did not remember Honky Tonk Woman. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe the B-side was the one that lasted for this. This one was really surprising to me.
All right.
Good Riddance, Time of Your Life by Green Day was originally a B-side for a song called Brain Stew. It was released in 1994. And then when they were recording Nimrod for 1997, they re-recorded Time of Your Life. And then it became the huge hit that we all know and love now.
Son of a gun. All right.
Yes. La Bamba by Richie Valens. It was the B-side to Donna. If I'm remembering correctly, Richie really wanted to do a song in Spanish. And the only way the record label would let him do it was if it was a B-side for one of his singles.
Yeah. And,
but of course,
the swing ballad for our high school dance is, 6 inches for the Holy Spirit. You're going to put Donna.
Yeah.
I get it.
Absolutely. But if you're looking to rock, La Bamba has turned into that.
Yeah. Come on now.
Next up is Beth by Kiss. It was the B-side for Detroit Rock City. And Beth actually ended up being Kiss's highest charting single ever.
Wow.
And they tried to bury it as a B-side to the third single from their album Destroyer.
Okay. Wow.
So it was just like, hidden there. And because a DJ's kid really liked the song, she put it in the rotation and people started to pick up on it. This won't be the first time you hear about a DJ changing the course of these songs on this list. So I have a couple more. The next one is God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. It is the B-side to Wouldn't It Be Nice?
Yeah.
But interestingly, internationally, specifically in the UK, God Only Knows was the A-side.
Interesting.
Only in America was Wouldn't It Be Nice the A-side.
Yeah.
That's in the UK, God Only Knows ended up reaching number 2 on the charts, but not here in America.
Interesting.
All right, the next one, another cover, Hound Dog by Elvis Presley. The A-side was Don't Be Cruel.
Yeah.
Both banger songs.
Yeah. Coin toss for me there,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't Be Cruel does not seem to have held up, though, as long. So
no, not like the other.
No.
Yeah.
Next is Rock Around the Clock by Bill Haley and his Comets. The A-side, which I don't think I've ever heard, is 13 Women and Only One Man in Town.
Same. Never heard it. You got me there.
Have no idea what that song is.
I might go listen to it now.
Yeah.
I have questions.
Right. 13, sir? You're right.
Isn't that nuts? Finally, the last song, Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers. It was the B-side for Hung On You.
I don't know that one.
Me neither. And like Beth, after a DJ got wind of Unchained Melody, they put it into regular rotation. It reached number 4 in the US, number 1 in the UK.
Yeah.
And
as it should have.
They did not think that it would be as much of a draw because of the slow beginning, right?
Right.
And so essentially they were kind of just fucking around on it.
Yeah.
So I forgot which Righteous Brother said it, but he was like, yeah, if I had known this was going to be as big of a hit as it was, I would have got a better piano player.
All right. Yeah.
So there you go. Those are some famous B-sides that ended up being more famous in many cases than their A-side. Highly recommend looking into some music history if that interests you.
That's a good list.
That.
Send me that list, Ben. I'll put it in the show notes.
Good call.
All right, will do.
That makes me ask something I should have asked last episode, because you asked, which movie you like better, between the two, Greatest Hits and Press Play, because we've been enjoying just the comparison. Which soundtrack do you like better? Ooh. I know this Press Play is. Ooh. I know not as much airplay, clearly, with the records availability and all that stuff like that, but just from the diegetic part of watching the movie, which movie you jamming with more?
My God,
I know.
Honestly, that Kina Grannis song goes a long way.
I agree. I mean, they had me a Japanese breakfast too, so like.
Yeah, Japanese breakfast is great. It's just the way that Nelly Furtado is ingrained in the Greatest Hits.
True.
I have a new appreciation for it.
Okay.
I feel like Greatest
Hits. They
both
have replayability. For sure.
For sure. Yep.
But looking at them both as a whole, damn, I think I would find myself listening more regularly to Press Play than the Greatest Hits, but the Greatest Hits still has a great soundtrack.
Yeah. Oh, both work. Yeah.
Both
Ansel?
work.
I think I would go the other way. I think Greatest Hits has more songs I already knew and appreciated.
Okay.
Sure. I might be too much of a Luddite for Japanese breakfast, which I'm going to fix now that I've seen this movie. But yeah, Greatest Hits dropped enough needles that they're maybe just by numbers game. They hit me more.
Yeah.
Cause I really didn't know any of the songs from this playlist until we got to the Flaming Lips.
Okay.
Which that one I'm very familiar with. That one hit me hard, and I was like, okay, all right, I see what you did there. But yeah, I think Greatest Hits would be my pick out of the two.
I'm a Press Play guy. Yeah.
All right.
I don't know, but that's different strokes, different folks. Just tasting music stuff. So
yeah, nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Well, all right, Don, as the professional teacher here, you'd be qualified to answer this question. How would you grade our edutainment this month?
Oh, solid B+, if not A-. Come on now, being able to do B-sides, being able to kind of talk about surf wax. I mean, the diversity of lessons that you can get between science and art and music and all that.
Only on this show.
Some science experiments of which wax can do the best. Let's have some music seminars, which soundtrack can do what, and do some research. Oh no, you folks did great. B+, A- for sure. I can't call it A+. I'm not sitting here immediately going on Wikipedia I need to know that now. But B+, A-. Soaring mark.
I'll take it. For a shallow dive, that's a great grade.
That's what I'm saying.
Great grade.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Party people, we hope you had a great time with us this month on Time to Party. Go watch Press Play on Hulu. Thank you, Don, again, for joining us this month. Always a pleasure to have you around.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have you on again very soon.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much for including me and bringing me in here. I need to return the favor overdue to get you on the Cinephile His Fit with me and my guy, Will Johnson. We'll find a way. But yes, thank you. It's a pleasure. You guys do great work. Beautiful show. Love the segments, love the stuff. And yeah, time travel. I mean, what a draw. You had me at time travel, but then again, to be able to span the things that you guys span, it's beautiful to listen to and watch. And yeah, I wouldn't be lying if I didn't find plenty of drinking rules to have a good time with it too. So yeah, love it.
Oh, you were far too kind, Don. Thank you so much. Party people, you can find us on the internet. I am at bsilverio20 on Instagram. Letterboxd, Blue Sky, sure, all other stuff.
For me, I am I am the editor-in-chief and lead critic on Film Obsessive. My own personal site is Every Movie Has a Lesson. I did talk about the podcast all of a sudden, so Cinephile History Podcast, wherever you find your podcast platforms. Social-wise, Casablanca tends to be my handle on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Blue Sky.
And I am at The Indecisionist on all the meta properties, as well as Blue Sky and Yowza and Reddit now. And I haven't mentioned it up until now, but you can also check out my new podcast from Indecisionist Productions For the Time Being. It's an actual play of the game that I designed called Mavericks. So I'm very excited to be bringing it to you. And by the time you hear this episode, we will be 2 episodes into the first adventure. So go ahead and check that out. For the Time Being, available wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. And this has, just like that, been an Indecisionist production. Special thanks to April Moralba for our podcast art and to Marlon Longett of Marlon and the Shakes for our amazing theme song.
If you're still using hashtags on anything, you can use the hashtag Time2Party. That's Time2Party to join the conversation.
As well as Time2Party, all spelled out, thanks to Warwick.
Oh boy. Have we had a great time this month or what? Like, I cannot wait for whatever new adventures we get into. And until we figure out whatever those are, party people, be excellent to each other.
And party on, dudes.
These words are hard.
Welcome, adventurers from across time and space. 5 creators have been brought together from across the internet for one purpose and one purpose alone: to travel through time and have a good time doing it. When big changes happen to the timeline, the change attracts other time travelers like gravity. They won't be able to move past it until they fix whatever was messed up. So our heroes are stuck together, but only for the time being.
You're saying the secret part out loud.
I think that she is fine.
Okay, because you were both screaming. She was screaming, you were also screaming.
And you have brought it here, and you are the one who is effing up the timeline.
My hand is definitely still a little covered in blood, my weird hand.
Do you scream when he screams?
Yeah, absolutely.
For the Time Being, a new actual play podcast from Indecisionist Productions, playing the Mavericks system, available wherever fine podcasts are downloaded.